Hi, it's Claudia from Create with Claudia. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today we're doing clue number 6 of Cotton Cut's So Sweet Puzzle Mystery Quilt, so stay tuned. Alright, here's my clue number 6. I'm ready to get started. I do have my pamphlet from the very beginning of the quilt along, or the mystery quilt. Again, I'm doing the churro small version. I do get the large pattern as well, so if you have any questions, drop me a line in my comments section and I can try to help you out. I hope it helps. But we're going to get started. Here's my clue number 6. We are coming along with this. I'm so excited. So let me move this out of the way. Actually, I'm going to flip it over because that's my helpful list of fabrics. And it looks like we do two parts on this one, or excuse me, one part, but two blocks of it. So here's what I have this month. All right, let me put that aside. All right, so it looks like we have some larger squares, some larger triangles, a few rectangles, some more triangles. I'm just going to lay these out a little bit so I know what I'm working with. Lots of other smaller ones. I bet we're going to do some half square triangles. And here's squares. And there we go. So it looks like I have everything. So now, and I will say, so far, I've had every single piece I need to make these blocks every month, which is really nice. All cut perfectly. I've had no problems, and as long as I use that 1/4 inch seam allowance, I am good to go, and as long as I follow their pressing directions. Those have been really helpful. So let us get started with section 6. The first thing we need to do is sew a large triangle B, and my fabric triangle B was this sort of mauve and brown, real pretty, sort of a little bit of a spotted pattern type thing. We're going to sew one of these to one of the large triangles of fabric D. So we're going to be like this. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to do that 4 times. So let me gather those up and move all these other pieces. All right, so how we're going to do this, and most of you probably know how to do this, but I'm just going to show you one time, and then I'm going to go ahead and get sewing, is you're going to place these right sides together, line them up, and as you can see, with the way they're cut, that cutting system, they just cut perfectly. They fit perfectly together. I will say the fabric is a little bit slippery because it's brand new. It's also really nicely pressed. I forgot to mention that. So you may or may not want to pin. I am notorious for not pinning, but if you want, just throw a pin in there just to keep them, since they are so slippery so they don't slip and slide. And we do that 4 times, and we're going to make 4 large half square triangles that in the end will measure 4.5 inches square. All right, so here are my 4 half square triangles. I have a long thread there. I'm just going to snip that out of the way. Here they are, nice and pressed, and let's see what we do after that. The one thing I think I forgot to mention, you press towards this to the fabric D, which in my case, the churro, is this pink, sort of dusty pink, really pretty. So the next thing we're going to do with this is, for all 4 of these, we're going to take the large square of fabric B, and we are going to sew them together so they end up looking like this. Again, using that 1/4 inch seam allowance, and when I'm done sewing, I'm going to press towards B. When this is done, this unit should measure 4.5 inches by 8.5 inches. And for this, I probably will pin, just because I just want to make sure they don't slip. And I just throw 1 pin in there again because they're so nicely pressed and they match perfectly. Alrighty, so here they are. Here's the 4 of them. They are ready to go, and then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to join two of them together. So they look like this. We've made this unit before. I think it was early on, either clue 1 or clue 2. It kind of reminds me a little bit of a butterfly just because of the wings right there. But we're going to join those together and then press to the bottom. Now here's my tip now here I definitely will pin. I may not be the best pinner, but I will when they're seams. So the nice thing about the way they press is they nest really nicely together. So you join those up and you're going to grab a pin and you're going to pin right there on that seam. And then it looks like everything's lining up nicely, and you're going to still continue with that 1/4 inch seam allowance down this long edge, right along this edge. And we do that 2 times. So we have 2 of those square big, and I'll call them butterfly units. Alrighty, here we are, and I'm happy with that center point. Let me just move that up. Maybe you can see it a little bit better. Hopefully the camera will just, nice sharp point there. That's with that pinning, and when you pin and you use that, when you press the way they tell you to, it nests so nicely and you get a nice sharp point there. So here are my 2 squares, and now I'm going to go ahead. It looks like we set these aside for right now, and now we're going to make some smaller half square triangles. So I need my small triangles. And we need fabric A. Looks like we're going to make 8 of these. So 1, set the others aside. To fabric D, which again was this pink that we used a few minutes ago. 1, 2, 3, 4. Should be 8. So we're going to do the same thing we did with the large one, where we're going to place a triangle, of fabric D with a triangle of fabric A, place them right sides together and just sew a 1/4 inch down the line, and we're going to make 8 of those. And just heads up, I didn't do it in the last couple, but the first few months, this fabric A in churro specifically is very pale, and I sewed a bunch of them the wrong way because the front almost looks like the back if you're not careful, so pay attention to that if you have the churro version. Alright, so here are my 8 half square triangles. On this one I pressed towards D to that pink fabric in my case. They should measure 2.5 inches square, and I checked and they do. So then what we're going to do is we are now joining these half square triangles to, let's see what we have. We're going to make 4 units. Oh, I see. We're going to get those rectangles of fabric D. Some more of that pretty pink. That is such a pretty, sort of a dusty rose or a dusty pink. And we are going to sew 1 on each end, so the unit ends up looking like this. So I'm going to go ahead and just start on one end, and you're going to do that. So you're going to have 4 units that are going to look like this. Alrighty, so here are these units, nice and pressed. They're all nice. They measure. Everything's been measuring perfectly so far. Again, that's what I love about this program is everything's cut for you. Everything measures right. As long as you use that 1/4 inch seam allowance and watch your seams, things have just been turning out perfectly. Knock wood. I don't want to jinx anything. So, all right, the next step, now that we've made these 4 units, is we are going to pull back that square, those squares we made earlier. Let me move this up a little bit. And then, hopefully you can see that, we are going to place 1 of these with fabric D facing. You know what I forgot to mention, I think, on this one? You press towards the inside. So that's where on all of these you're going to press towards that inside rectangle. Sorry about that. So let's get back to this. So this is how you're going to place this, 1 on each side. We're going to sew those, and we're going to sew those together. So I will definitely pin this because it's a longer seam. And it fits nicely. You know, you always hold your breath a little bit when pieces that are supposed to fit together and make sure they do, and luckily they do. And on this one, you're going to press towards the inside or towards that that square in the middle. And what I do, I just go ahead and add both sides before I press. Just a little bit of a time saver. For me, at least. All right, now I'm ready. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and you're going to do that 2 times. So you're going to have 2 units that will look like that. Alrighty, so here we are. It's almost done. This is rolling right along. I'm going to set these aside. You should have 2 that look like this. The one note, make sure this center block that you have the triangles facing the right way. It'd be real easy to twist that around pretty quickly. So make sure you look at this or you look at the diagram on your pattern, and that'll help you out. So I'm setting those aside. So the next thing we want to do is now we're going to take, looks like the rest of those fabric A triangles, the small ones, and we're going to pair those up with the 4 small triangles of fabric F, which in my case is this medium brown. Same thing we did with the other one. We're making half square triangles, place them right sides together and sew down the long side. And I will do that, and then we're going to press towards the brown fabric, towards that fabric for fabric fabric F. Alright, so here are my 4 half square triangles, and now it looks like we are going to get these squares that were left, and we are going to lay this out. Let me just do one for you so you can see. You're going to put these in the center, so you're going to make like a larger triangle of F. This is exactly how they're going to get laid out. Then a square of fabric A on each side of that. And then a square of this beautiful fabric C. I love this in this colorway of this churro. It's I don't know which of the fabrics. It's part of the Sharon Holland's collection of Bookish that was made for Art Gallery Fabrics. I just think this one is so pretty. It has so many different colors. So basically, you're going to just piece this together. I'm just going to go section by section and sew them all together until you have one long strip that's going to measure 12.5 inches by 2.5 inches. And you actually need 2 of those. That's going to go on the top of that larger unit we made a minute ago. And oh, let me just say before I get started, you are going to press all of these from here over to here towards the left, and then these 2 you're going to press towards the right. Alrighty, so here are these 2 strips, and now we are ready to finish up this month's clue number 6. I'm going to move one of these out of the way. Looks like we lay this, move this out of the way a little bit. There we go, that's a little bit better. Now you can see the whole thing. You're going to sew this to the top. And this you definitely want to pin because there's some seams right here, here, and here that you're going to join. So you want to make sure those are nice and crisp. But you want this arrow pointing out, and then when you're done, you're going to press towards this larger section. So again, pin along the top, 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then you should be done once we're pressed with 2 units that are going to look the same. Alrighty, so here are my 2 blocks. You do 2 of these. This is what they end up looking like. I'll just show you one that sometimes when there's 2 layered, it looks a little wonky. But here you go. Here are my 2 blocks. They almost look like pumpkins to me. I don't know why. Maybe because of that shape or something. I did want to show you one tip, and I've said this in other ones. When you're sewing long strips or any strip like this, where you're going to have a point like this one, let's see, the light's pretty harsh in here right now. Like this one here. When you're sewing, use that seam, that prior seam, these two seams right here, see how they join up like this? Use that to your advantage, because if you sew right on or right above, see if you can see that, but I'm going to move that a little bit. I don't know if you can see that. It's way too bright, unfortunately. Let me see. I have a monitor so I can sort of see. There we go. That's a little bit better, hopefully. There we go. You're going to see how that long seam crossed over where that point is of those two seams of this prior made half square triangle. That's going to help you get a nice sharp point here. Okay, so if you just use that little sort of that sort of cross section right there to help you get a nice sharp point. It's probably better to see in other ones. I used a paler thread. That's what was in my machine right now too. So I should have changed that out before I did this video, but I will remember that for clue 7. But anyway, here we go. Here are these two. My other tip, don't forget to label them, because when we put it all together, I know I, for one, will not be able to remember all of the different parts. Alrighty, so what'd you think about clue number 6? Here it is. Nice and fun. Let me hold it up a little bit more. It kind of looks like a pumpkin to me. I know it's not going to be, but so this is clue number 6, and we did 2 of these. So join me next month. I hope you do. And again, think about joining next for the next one. Again, it's called Piazza, and my code, if you sign up, please use that. It's Claudia Piazza. And I hope to see you next month. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.